I'm standing outside the Nakano Broadway station here to look at some watches. I've heard that this is the best place to buy watches in Japan, and I'm about to go see what all the hype is about. Nakano Station is right here, and Nakano Broadway, which is where all the watches are, is right here behind me in this arc here. So I think there's multiple floors. I'm gonna try to look for a legend, but let's get going. Right after entering past Uniqlo, there's two stores here. The first one is Only Time, and the second one is, I don't really know how to pronounce that. It's in pure Japanese, but I'm gonna go in and see what kind of watches that they have. Kicking off our Nakano shopping experience with a very pretty 16570 Explorer 2 full kit coming in at 11,500 Canadian. A perfect time to fulfill our Shinjuku dreams and try on an Explorer 2, but we'll have lots of opportunities to do so today, so we'll save it for later. A 226570 Explorer 2, the current model to its right, coming in at 15,000 Canadian. And going back to the model's origins, a 1655 Explorer 2 with what I believe is a Mark II dial, coming in at almost 30,000 Canadian. Full kit on this one. I've realized I'm starting to take a weird liking to these gem set Submariners. A two-tone 16613 coming in at 18,000 Canadian. Honestly, not a bad price. Although, coins aside, I probably need another 15 to 20 years of age to appropriately pull this look off. The image beside shows the south of the case to have a chip on the model number, likely the reason why it's so well priced. The shops here are very honest about the condition of their watches. Over onto a yellow gold Daytona and a Panda Daytona below. Crazy how the difference between a solid gold watch and a steel watch is only $20,000. Or is it? I don't know. When you're in this hobby, you kind of get desensitized to all the zeros at some point. Couple more Daytona selling for 3 times its retail. The black one is significantly cheaper though, at $5,000 less than the white dials. An older 16520 Daytona, priced very reasonably at just under 30 Canadian. You can see from this dimmer lighting that this is the bottom shelf. A 14000. Honestly, this could be a great choice for a tourist's first Rolex. Over to the first of many blacked out turnographs we're going to see. This one's going for 9,000 Canadian, watch only. Headed across the street to Only Time. Under the impressive storefront housed only a couple watches with the gentleman at the counter on the phone. I think this was more of a purchase office than one for selling. A modern 226570 Explorer 2. You can tell it's the current generation by the crown between the Swiss made at 6 o'clock, 17,000 Canadian for this example. To its right, a current gen Air King selling for 11.5 Canadian. And that's about it for the watches here. Couple more Seikos and 2 figures of Mr. Otani. Huge respect for this gentleman, although I'm not sure if even he can help Seiko justify the crazy prices they're charging nowadays. So far, a lot of modern Rolexes. You got your GMT Master 2s, Daytonas, neither of which I recorded because they are a little bit further from my price range, and also I'm not that much into the ceramic bezel stuff. I saw quite a few Explorer 2s, the newer ones, and also 1 or 2 16570s. We are so early on. I've only seen 2 stores. I don't know if this is like the main Nakano Broadway. I think it's actually in front of me, but let's keep going and see what we can find. The next stop is Billion Watch. This location had 3 staff behind the counter, all engaged in conversation, so despite the impressive stock I'm about to show, I think this was also an acquisition branch. Kicking it off with an Aquanaut. I honestly know next to nothing about Pateks, but if you are into this brand, I recommend checking out SC's channel. He's got impressive knowledge on the brand and owns several models. I'll put a link in the description below. A few plastic watches with prices I find difficult to fathom. By the way, you can get the blacked out one at retail on Robson Street in Vancouver. Over to 2 mind-blowing Daytonas. Ignoring the misspelled El Primero, the left one is $27,000 more than the one on the right. I thought the El Primero was the more desirable one. If anyone knows what could have made this left one so special, please let me know in the comments. Same goes for the white dials. Would you pay double for what appears to be the same watch? That's crazy. A solid gold Tiger Eye 1675 nipple dial lume on the hands look a little brighter than the indices, but the price certainly doesn't think so. And hey, whoever the head buyer on this was definitely knows a lot more about this watch than me. A Pepsi 1675 to his left, the hands on this looking a lot more convincing, gorgeous bezel, a bit of gradient effect going on with the blue, coming in at 47,000 Canadian. A more faded example to his left, cheaper by 3,000 Canadian. A quick scan on the Tudors. I'm not sure if these are brand new, but all three are about 1,000 more than what can be found on Facebook Marketplace. Now for a big grail piece, a Cartier Tortue Mono Pusher. The dial on this looks like a fine piece of enamel bone china enjoyed by royalties at tea parties in the 18th century. I know I've got a wild imagination. It's surely got a museum artifact price to match. Snapping back to present day, or about a decade and a half ago, a Polar Explorer 2 16570. Wait, this also has a museum artifact price. What's going on here? Why is it so expensive? A Mark I Pumpkin 1655 Explorer 2 to his right. Now, two Kermits, both Fat 4s. By the way, that means the 4 in the 40 on the bezel is white at the top, both coming in at 30,000 Canadian. This has been a mythical owl pull, to be honest, and you know what? This entire store really feels more like a curated museum than watches that's meant to be sold to passersby. Every sale here is probably done via appointments, except the Tudors and swatches, of course. Onward to TWC. From watching Watch Symposium's videos, I've been made to believe this to be one of the biggest chains here in Japan.
Surprisingly, TWC only had Seiko, Tissot's, Tag Heuer's, no Rolex. Well, there was one. There was one Rolex. It's the presidential yellow gold with the green olive dial. But not my kind of thing and out of my budget. So let's keep going. So I guess this is the main entry to Nakano Broadway. Let's see what kind of watches they have here.
The first shop within the real Nakano Broadway is a pawn shop. Name is literally Big Black House Timepiece Hall. And this is where I tried on the Explorer 2. First with the modern 226570, it's so freaking beautiful, and while it definitely sits large on my wrist, it reminds me of the Tudor FXD's profile. 15,000 Canadian for this black dial, full set. And here's a 16570 in comparison. The 40 versus 42mm case is definitely evident. I think this size definitely fits me better, and if I was to buy used, the 16570 will certainly be my choice. The case is a lot slimmer and the lug-to-lug is a lot more in favor of my wrist. This example seems to be unpolished, or if it has been, it was done quite well. The lugs are still thick and the polished bevel is still consistent in thickness as well. Holds case with a Swiss-made dial, solid end link, dating it between 1999 to 2002. Clasp is smaller than what I'm used to though, but I can kinda deal with that. This is hands down the most desirable configuration in my opinion. Durable feel, no fear of lume cracking, with ease of swapping it onto a seatbelt gray NATO. Just about 10k Canadian for this one. Quickly over to the Tudors, a Black Bay Chrono Black on bun for 4.5k, and a Meta Ceramic also at the same price. A very special Cartier Santos. A smaller size, is it alright if I call this like a root beer dial? I think it's a brand new release from earlier this year. Couple steps away from Big Black House, no baby oil to be found by the way. The next location is Rich Time. It was the last shop on this floor and an acquisition office at that. They had 2 ceramic GMTs and a whole host of Grand Seikos. Okay, when you're in Nakano Broadway, after you climb the stairs to the end of the first floor, you'll see the screen. And it'll be exactly as you think. Yes, just as you thought Nakano wasn't all it was drummed up to be, the horological gods are here to let you know that it's only just starting. Okay, into the first shop, we have a barrage of new Tudors sitting here, multiples of the Red Bull Chronos, and a P01 selling at a steep discount. Couple Black Bay 54s and 58s, all at quite high prices even if they're brand new. A very expensive Black Bay 925, coming in at 5,800 Canadian. Something you used to see frequently but not anymore. Tudor Grand Tour Flyback Chrono. Now enter the turnographs. It was cool when I saw the first one, but now it appears to be dime a dozen here in Japan. 4 Air Kings, all current generation with the crown guards. And 4 Submariners, from the left to the right, a Hulk, a Last of the Last Kermit with a richer green on the bezel, followed by a Fat 4 Kermit, then ending with the 116610, marking the end of an era. I think I just woke up and went to heaven. An entire cabinet of Explorer 2s. They had the white 16570 at various prices between 12 to 14,000 Canadian. Interestingly, the black previous gen 42mm is selling right around retail at 13,000 Canadian. Makes sense, as I think the pure steel hands look much better than the applied steel paint that they had in the previous gen. And the most beautiful row in the whole store. Just look at the crimson on the bezel. For 23,000 Canadian, ain't nothing comes free, certainly not when it comes to watches. Over next door to Watchland and plunging straight into the Tudor cabinet. One of my life goals is to have a drawer just like this with a bunch of Tudors laying in it. Hopefully in the good way, not because I don't wear them anymore or anything. Hopefully. Like I get brand prestige is a thing, but you've got to see this. A 79280 Prince Chrono, devoid of any Tiger association, just a crisp cream subdials on an onyx black dial with the sharpest lugs and bezels you'll ever see. Full kit priced at only 58,000 Canadian too after tax exempt. This one is a steal. I would have 100% picked this up if I didn't already have my 79260. On to something you don't see every day, a Tudor aeronaut. The watch wears surprisingly thin while managing to feel like the most purposeful thing I've ever tried on. Definitely not for everyone though, especially with that engraved first link. Priced accordingly at 35,000 Canadian dollars. Alright, briefly sobering up from my fascination with Tudors and over to pre-ceramic Submariners. We've got two 5513s and a 5512. After the numbers that were recently published on the rarity of the 5512, that 36,000 Canadian price makes a lot more sense. Maybe? Moving over to the Explorer 2s. The black ones are priced about 1,000 lower than the previous shop, but the wide dials seem to be around the same. The modern version is definitely a bit more pricey though. Here's what I was here for. The 16710s in all the colorways. Small sample size, but it seems like the Coke is consistently the most expensive of the bezel range. Actually, I was surprised the Pepsi is priced similar to the All Blacks. Usually they go for a bit more, though it might be because of the condition. Onwards to a shop with a name I cannot pronounce, and sorry as I try to fight with the glare here. I saw a beautiful 5513 with a spider dial selling at just 15,000 Canadian, and that's before tax exempt. I know this is a contentious thing. Some people think the spider dial is cool, while others see it as what it really is, which is damage in the paint. And if you're one of those people, they've got a few more decently priced pre-ceramic subs here. This store also had a row for Explorer 2s. You can see the modern 226570 even in the black dial is selling for much more than the previous generation. Is it worth the premium? For the black dial at least, I think it is. Around the corner was this narrower alley featuring a shop that sold parts. There were various bezels available, dials, and even a few vintage Rolexes. I imagine this is where you'd go if you're looking for a period correct bezel insert, a bracelet, or even to swap out the dial on your own watch. The store had a crazy impressive selection. All for Rolexes by the way, so if you're like me and you're looking for a green bezel to go on your Black Bay 58, you'll have no luck here. The next store down the alleyway was also small, but had an amazing selection of pre-ceramics. A Coke GMT Master 2 with a very rich red in the bezel, sans serif, Swiss made dial, and solid end links. A 2000 example and all the parts check out. By the way, if you're ever looking to find out whether your 16710 is period correct, I've got a video breaking this down which you can grab a screenshot from. Link in the description. Another 16710, this one with a more faded bezel, sans serif as well. The label says it's a 2001 model, which must have meant it was a very late 2001 example, as Rolex only started making sans serif bezels in 2002. I don't think it's a replacement bezel insert given that fade, though I guess it's possible. This one is priced a tad higher at 16.8 Canadian, likely because it has papers. Almost dropped my camera here seeing this gorgeous 16710 black insert, also priced at 16.8, a very late last of the last example, made in 2006. Over to its right, the first hollow end link in the store, with what must have been a replacement bezel given it's dated to be made in the year 2000. 15.3 for this one. Two more Explorer 2s, hanging there with me. We've got two of the cheapest 16570s I've seen so far today, coming in at around 11,000 Canadian. Although no box, no papers, and it seems like some service is required, which the shop is offering for about 600 Canadian. Alright, walking past the Jack Road and Betty store. I didn't go in. Why? Well, it's not because I bought a watch.
I'm heading back now from Nakano Broadway, and I am totally tapped out from looking at watches. I know now what Austin Daniel means, that by the time he gets done with his Nakano trip, he doesn't want to even look at watches anymore. I was on the third floor here, still at Nakano Broadway. You can see the watches in the background. There's like at least 20 different stores, all selling more than 100, 150 different Rolex, Omegas, Tudors, Breitlings, Panerais, everything. And I think like bottom floor, I didn't know how many stores there are upstairs. I didn't know what to expect until I got up there. And yeah, I think I only visited like 1/3 of them upstairs. But if you guys are ever in Japan, definitely come here to see what they have in stock. They have pretty much everything in multiples of everything. From GMT Masters to Explorers, Submariners, of course, your black bezel diver Rolexes, and also a lot of other different brands. That's it from me in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.